Hello, beautiful people. It's been a while since I've done a voiceover, so forgive me in advance if I sound a little bit rusty. Recently, I've noticed that an old video of mine regarding commissions has been getting some extra attention, so I thought it would be a good idea to make an updated version of said video. So, I am going to cover all the things I've already talked about, plus some extra tips, and I'm also going to share the process I go through when I work on a commission. Yes, Horus, thank you very much for your contribution to this voiceover. The first topic I want to dive into is about where to provide your services. Last time I talked about how switching from Fiverr to Artistry was very beneficial to me, although it is worth mentioning that it's important to choose a website that will work best for you. 90% of my clients always came from Instagram, therefore I didn't need Fiverr's marketplace anymore, and I could finally switch off of it to provide better prices for my clients and less fees for me. On that note, always make sure to check any website's fees before you price your services, or you might find yourself with barely anything left at the end of a commission. Unfortunately, I learned that the hard way. However, if you're not sharing your work on any social media, you're probably going to have a really hard time finding clients on something like artistry or coffee. Therefore, you might want to try your luck with Fiverr, for example, since it already has a community of buyers and it's a generally known place for requesting commissions of any kind. With that being said, it's possible to also not use these platforms at all and take commissions directly through social media. I would personally recommend setting up an email to use only for taking commissions. This way, you can just simply ask the potential client to contact you through that. I would also recommend using Gmail as it can connect to Google Doc. And why is that important, you might ask? Well, because on Google Docs, you can create a form that your clients will have to fill up to request a commission from you. It's a very cool thing because it's fully customizable, so you're not bound to any website restrictions. What you have to do is write down a bunch of questions that will help you understand what type of commission your client wants, which is going to give you an idea of the price you're going to ask for. With that being said, you have to share this form/email somewhere alongside some of your works, because how else are people supposed to know what kind of art you make and that you're even available for commissions if you don't share it? Mind you, I've used all these websites and methods to make digital commissions. So, unfortunately, I am not sure how you would go about traditional commissions. I'm sorry. I've mentioned writing down questions for your clients, but what are you even supposed to ask? Well, here are all the things that I usually need to know before giving out the full price. Number 1. Is it going to be a portrait, a bust-up, or a full-body illustration? Number 2. Does it need to be just a sketch or a fully colored and rendered piece? Number 3. Does the client want a detailed background? Number 4. Will I have to draw multiple characters? And if so, how many? Number 5. Is it for commercial usage? AKA the client will make profit off of it. And number 6. Does the piece need to be done before a certain established date? These are all the questions that absolutely need to be answered for me to be able to price the commission. If you decide to use a website such as Fiverr or Artistry, you don't have to worry about some of these questions, as you can create multiple custom gigs with visual examples that your client can choose from. Here's an example of what my gig looks like. Additional things I will ask the clients are a detailed description of the character, visual references. Pinterest boards work well for that. What they want their character to be doing, pose references, canvas size preferences, and sometimes I will ask their social media name in case I want to share the commission and they also want to be tagged in it. Now that you have all the information you need to start your commission, how are you even supposed to price it? Well, this can be a little bit tricky, especially if you have no experience. There are a few things you can consider to make this task easier for yourself. Number one, Number one, is this just an extra income you will have on the side, or do you want to make a living off of it? And number two, what is your current skill level? If it becomes a full-time job, it needs to be paid as such. Think about what the general minimum wage would be like. Or actually, even better, think about what you would consider humanly as acceptable for the service you provide. Also, you gotta be objective about your current skill level. And I do not want to hear, "Oh, but my art is absolute garbage." Shut up. That is not an objective assessment. Do you still have to improve? How much more? What's your goal? What do you want your art to look like? How long did it take you to develop your current skill set? Are you actively still learning new things? What are you most confident about? These are all questions you should ask yourself while assessing your skill level. I would also encourage you to look around at both artists you admire and artists that you think have a similar skill set as you to know how much they're asking for commissions. This doesn't mean that you automatically have to copy whatever they're charging, but it's just to have a general idea of the current market prices. I'm sorry if this is all a bit vague, but when it comes to money, it becomes a little bit of a difficult topic to speak about, as we all live in different countries with different laws, taxes, incomes, expenses, and currencies. What I can say though is that I take my payments through PayPal by simply linking my account to whatever platform I'm using for commissions. Now, I might be extremely lucky here, but I have never had any issue with PayPal. However, beware if you decide to use it, as some people report about having issues with it. When it comes to payments, I would always just recommend any platform available to you that doesn't require you to share sensitive details with the customers. And speaking of safety, never, and I repeat, never agree to get paid only after the commission is fully done. Either get paid prior, when both you and the customer have agreed on a price, or you could split the payment, 50% at the start of the commission and 50% after a certain stage. But how do you set these boundaries? Fear not, as you can make your own TOS, which stands for Terms of Service. The TOS is pretty much a list of rules and boundaries that you set and that the customer will have to agree to before you start working on the commission. For example, the payment method I was talking about can be written down as one of your TOS points. There are a lot of things you can include in the list, so I'm just going to quickly show you mine as an example, and so that you have an idea of what you can establish for yourself. Now that you have an idea of all the things that need to be set up, let's say you do get a commission. And now what? Well, firstly, I usually gather up all the references that the customer has already sent me and start looking for more on my own based on what we agreed on. Once I have all the things that I need, I'll start sketching 2 to 3 ideas. Usually they're not very different from each other, as I always ask a lot of questions to the customer to ensure that I can immediately portray what they had in mind. but I still want to give them some options. So that's why I still do multiple sketches. Once those are done, I try to polish them as best as I can so that they are easily readable, and then I'll submit them for a big revision. During this stage of the process, I will allow the customer to change their mind about the pose, the clothes, and the hairstyle. So, if a big change to the design has to be done, it will only be done at this stage. Once the sketch gets approved, I'll ink the character, color it, and then render it. I usually don't communicate much with the customer during these last few stages of the process, as we have already fixed the mistakes during the sketching phase. I would usually provide a few different color variations just as a little extra gift when sending the final result to the customer, as a lot of the times I work with D&D character commissions, and I find that people usually enjoy having a lot of drawings about their beloved characters. I will still allow for small changes to be made at the end, such as fixing some colors or cropping some parts of the drawing. And that is how I go about working on commissions. The last thing I want to talk about, which I have already mentioned in my first video about taking commissions, is how to recognize scammers. Because yes, unfortunately, you will eventually have to deal with them. But fear not, as I'll give you the tools to deal with them. First of all, whatever is the platform you're using to promote your work, be very clear about how and where you're taking a commission. Write it down in your bio or whatever, and always redirect potential customers to your commission form or website. If someone fully ignores your messages about taking the conversation to another platform, you pretty much have the confirmation that they are scammers. Also, beware of people just randomly offering you an insane amount of money, usually way more than what you are charging for a commission. Those are very much fake. But if you ever feel unsure about those as well, just redirect the person to your commission website or form, just like I just told you, because there might be people out there who have never commissioned anyone and are unaware of how to proceed, so they'll need a little bit of guidance, and that's fine, that's completely fine. But if they straight up keep ignoring your requests and instead start demanding things from you, you can just straight up walk away from the conversation. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any more questions. I'll try to answer them again as best as I can. And yeah, thanks for watching and listening to my yapping session. Peace.